There we go. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you today?
Walaikum Assalam. Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I found out the problem because I joined from the Google Calendar. It wanted me to join through the Zoom application and click on
Oh,
my.
you had to log in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how are you today? Are you outdoors or is that a corporate building?
It is a place called Bellworks. It's basically just a big, huge, massive open space.
Gotcha, gotcha.
It's
That's,
the greatest place on earth.
yeah, I think I've seen some of the like Muslim professional events. Muslim mentors have met up there, right?
Mhm.
I think I recognize some of the background now.
Possibly. I don't know fully offhand.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Where are you?
Yeah, so I'm located up in Rockland County in Clarkstown. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, but I spent some time in Central Jersey. I actually went to Rutgers University, and I did some research at the
Oh,
Robert
nice.
Johnson Hospital. So the Robert Johnson Hospital is major, obviously. I think everyone's heard of it. Um, and I have
Sure.
an
Yeah.
uncle down there in Homedale, and then he has a clinic. He's a doctor. He has a clinic in Edison. So I go down there time to time. I actually spend a little bit of time in Central Jersey, and there's been new restaurants opening up here and there. So I was like,
Every day,
so
constantly. The restaurant thing, that's never going to end.
yeah, yeah. So alhamdulillah, thank you, brother, for joining me, inshallah. And without further ado, we'll get
Thank
started.
you for having me.
So, I'll be dropping your LinkedIn in the summary section of the podcast, but I always have my guests kind of give a high level overview of who they are and introduce themselves because people usually listen first and then they, go on the phone later and do the research. So I'll give you the floor and let you
Sure.
introduce.
Okay. So, intro about me. So, Shamoon Siddiqui here in Jersey. Um, I have been doing software development in some form or the other now for about 20 years, 17, 18 years, up and down the stack, individual contributor, uh, tech lead, CTO. I've had a few startups of my own, some modestly successful, but mostly resounding failures. What else? Got my bachelor's and master's from NJIT, MBA from Rutgers, and then for some reason I decided a couple of years ago to go back to school to get my Ph.D. in AI from Rowan. So I'm just rounding out all of the New Jersey State universities. Anything else interesting? What else? Oh, I'm a member of the Society of American Magicians, so that's a plus. And I think that's about it as far as the interesting stuff.
It's interesting. I'm actually, I'm a Rutgers person myself. I'm getting my master's in information systems from NJIT. I'm getting my MBA from Rutgers, just like you did. But it's
Nice.
funny. I considered Rowan for advanced degrees because yeah, it's like the third major state school, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even know it existed until I started this PhD program all
Yeah,
these years.
they've just been very quiet. I think their marketing is just not great. But like 2005, I know that's when they picked up. They have like engineering programs. They have two medical schools, but you wouldn't tell.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Two medical schools, not just one. They've got two full medical schools,
yeah,
which
that
is
that tells you marketing
fascinating.
is everything. That tells you marketing is that you can have two med schools and people still
That's it.
outside the region will never have heard of your name.
Yeah, it surprised me how large Rowan actually is.
Yeah. So, thank you, brother Siddiqui, for that, for the high level overview. And how long have you been in the industry, by the way?
Oof, the industry. Well, outside of once I graduated my master's, I went to go work in the defense industry, which is not great. And then into, I guess, all things web technology since right around then. So, yeah, we're going on 16-ish years, maybe.
Wow. Okay. So,
It's been a while.
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I've been working since 2008 in IT, so around the same time. Um,
Nice.
wow, nice, neck and neck almost. Um, and tell me, I mean,
Competition's on.
competition. So tell me, I mean, you're CTO of is it Talent Spurk? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I just started this thing called Talent Spark, which is a tech recruiting company. So that is brand new, hot off the presses, maybe a month old by now. So it's just getting started, and I'm hoping to leverage some of my previous experience and connections to maybe turn it into something, and maybe not.
Gotcha. What inspired this idea? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of, well, there's always these pockets of recruiting solutions out there. So, what gave you the idea and what makes you different from the competition?
So three things. First, I've been a developer, hiring manager, been hired through recruiters, dozens of times by now. So when it comes to screening talent, I have a better perspective of what to look for, what matters, what doesn't matter. Second thing, network. For whatever reason, I've been heavily involved in community programs and community leadership to organize things around career technology development um, within the Muslim community, but also outside of it. I've been running the JavaScript New York City meetup now for 12 years. COVID obviously put a little bit of a damper on it, but getting that restarted. So the network really, I think, will be beneficial. And finally, I don't need to be different, right? There's thousands of recruiting companies and they're all doing it. Why does anything have to be different? Why can't it be 1,001? So if one and two weren't enough, number three should convince anyone that differentiation isn't necessarily needed. Helpful, sure, but it's not an absolute requirement.
Gotcha. No, that's
I
definitely a
think.
good mindset, which is you have this massive network, which will definitely be leveraged. And yeah, sometimes you don't need to be different. You can just be another solution. Um,
Yeah.
so I can definitely tell that your solution will be a value add. And what is it like being an entrepreneur? What is it like being a CTO? I mean, what does your day-to-day look like?
So when doing the entrepreneurial route, the day to day is some version of different and the same. You have to keep doing things that you have to grind at your daily tasks, whatever they may be. But then it's up to you to come up with the initiative of what to do next. Measure what's working, what's not working, what does success look like, failure look like, and especially if you're coding as well. So whenever I've been in coding roles recently or hands-on development roles, even there I'm finding that it's 70 to 80% hands-on and 20 to 30% some form of managing other engineers or onboarding or process improvement. So without that, it's difficult to know which way to go without a compass while also building the compass. So it's not an easy route.
That's definitely a good simile you used, which is it's hard to know where to go without a compass when you're also the compass. Um I sometimes feel that way about being a CIO because I became a C level relatively early just because I was working at a consulting firm that I went into government, and with government there's a lot of lack of technical talent. I was C level there, uh, and I found myself lost sometimes because I was like, I have no one to go to. I'm the guy everyone goes to, right? The buck ends here. So it's sort of like you
Yep.
said, you're building the compass, but then you also need the compass, right? So I definitely resonate with
It can be challenging.
yeah. So tell me about your education. Like, what drew you to Rutgers? What drew you to NJIT? What drew you to honestly the IT and business field in general? Like, why not law or engineering, like chemical engineering,
So
something like that, or medicine, like our parents all desire?
yeah, my parents were not exceptions there. I think if I go to med school now, they'll still be happy and they'll still support it. But in middle school, high school, uh, way back when, started playing around with computers. We're talking about like 286s and 386s, if anyone remembers what those are. And of course, it's a child of immigrants, so social networks were very small. A lot of time spent playing on the computer. Just started to get good at various, and this is again pre-Google, pre-internet, just understanding how computers work, how to code even. I remember I started coding in BASIC, and then I upgraded to C++ sometime in high school. And at my senior year of high school, after I got a job in the city, and at the time I was making $20 an hour, first job, not bad. And I was like, all right, this is something that seems like it's reasonable. Why I chose computer engineering? Probably the dumbest reason. I wanted to figure out how to get that intersection of mind and machine. Now, of course, fast forward 20 something years, we're kind of getting there with all of this AI stuff. But at the time, I thought it's interesting. Why NJIT? Because it was free. I was accepted to the honors college, so tuition was paid. That took a load off. My master's got some stipends and some grants paid. Even my MBA, the company I was working for at the time, and again, this is a long time ago, they paid for it as well. And even this PhD program, it's fully funded and paid as well. So far, I have not paid anything for any higher education.
Yeah, brother Shamoon is like, I'll be damned if I have to pay for any education. It's all gonna be free.
I can't, yeah, you expect me to pay for this? No.
No, that's definitely good. I mean, those are, I always tell people when looking at college, like at least at the masjid, around this time is where parents start asking for advice, like where to narrow down. I'm always like, follow the money. That's it. Go to the state
All
school.
of the money. Yeah, because
Yeah.
unless you're going to go to some highly specialized program, in my opinion, the undergrad, you don't really need to spend all those dollars going to some fancy university if it really doesn't matter per se, right? Because if you don't go for higher ed, okay, then we're starting to talk about something. But yeah, follow the money, 100%.
So tell me about some of the different like roles you've held along the way before becoming to a CTO, because a lot of people follow different paths before ending up at the C-suite, whether it's technical or non-technical pathways. So how does yours look?
Um, as a career choice, I tend to avoid the large, the FANGs, the IBMs, sort of mega conglomerates, because there it's really, really hard to move up. You have to be a lifer to kind of start to slowly move up that path. Where if you stay in the smaller and mid-sized companies, C-suite starts to mean a lot less. If you're talking about a 20, 30 person company, it's not hard to be in the C-suite there or executive leadership or engineering management. The same job at an Airbnb, good luck. So my path has been sticking with these smaller, mid-sized startups along the way, and just the old saying, right? Your network becomes your net worth. So just leave behind good relationships everywhere you go.
100%, 100%. No, the network aspect is key, and that's really important. Is that you start building that, like honestly, the second you start college, because like the college classmates that you're playing around with today, 10 years from now, are going to be the directors sending you referrals if you have like a consulting company, or if they hire someone, they're going to let you know.
100%.
So, tell me, what is your approach to work? I mean, how do you stay abreast of new technologies? When you have a problem, how do you solve it? Do you like to kind of work individually? Do you like to work with a team? Like, what's your attitude at work like?
So staying abreast of new technologies has been something that I've kind of done by accident, just running various community programs, meetups, things of that nature. You're always absorbed into what's the latest and greatest without really trying that hard. And this is where it comes to asymmetric payoffs, right? A lot of people are not willing to, and myself included, to do these outreach efforts and give their time and effort to seemingly no benefit, but the benefits are there and they're huge. If I organize, so in about a month or two, I'm organizing a CTO roundtable. I'm going to learn more from that than I have in a year. Have a dozen or so CTOs talking about whatever. I'll learn more about the tech landscape, hiring challenges, how things are going to be cyclical or not cyclical in 2 hours. All of the reading and research in the world won't equip me as much. The meetups, again, COVID aside, I was running consistently every month for 12 years, going to the city, setting up a venue, giving the talk, organizing. But in 2, 3 hours of one event, I now know the latest and greatest JavaScript frameworks, challenges, without really trying that hard. So that's been my secret weapon, just constantly initiating social change and greater good. And I don't mean that in sort of a patting my back kind of way, but I mean, it is a very selfish thing to do, but it does work.
100%. I mean, I find myself immersed in these professional groups, and I feel like my pathway is more non-technical, right? Like I started as a help desk technician and then account executive, and then project and product management and management on the non-technical side. So staying on top of things has been a little bit more difficult for me, but I just surround myself by technical folks, and then like a sponge, I just try to absorb all of it. Which is, I
Absolutely.
think, you know, uh, it's all about like the people you spend your time with, right? Like the if you spend your time with technical people, you're gonna start learning all the technical stuff. So that's a life hack that I definitely take advantage of.
And
Um,
things to not have what I call the DVD moment. So, our parents' generation, they knew how to use the VCR. It worked. They could play, they could rewind, they could maybe even record. But then the DVD player came out. There was menus, there was all, and they're like, I don't need to know that. So they stopped. They stopped learning how a DVD players work, and then we move on from there. So I feel like as you get to a certain age, you kind of have to make that decision. I'm not going to let this thing be my DVD player. So, I mean, in our past 10, 15 years, we've had how many advances between Bitcoin, crypto, and now AI, AGI, mobile first. Any one of those could be a DVD player moment, and you just, nope, I'm not going to move on. Or you can own it, learn about it, recognize your own limits, realize this is it. This is what the world is doing. So I better learn real fast. Just never stop learning.
Absolutely. I've gone to like Google Dev Fest, ServiceNow Creator Con, and these conferences, and like not that I shouldn't be surprised by this, but like I'll see people with like absolutely Einstein level white hair still going to these conferences, still learning, and it inspires me. I'm just like, wow, you never stop being a student. You
You can't.
keep learning.
You really can't, because at some point, um, if you accept that this is my DVD moment, well, then it is. So better off just not accepting that. Still have room to grow.
Tell me about a difficult time you've had in your career where maybe you had to deal with like difficult employee, a difficult problem, something that kind of, I guess, became scar tissue for you later on, and years later, it's still something you rely on. You look at that problem and you go like, you know what, this was like a defining moment for me. This was like sink or swim almost. Some people have one, some people don't. So it's a hard question to answer. So if you want to pass, we can just pass because I have had guests
No,
who go,
no.
you know what, I don't have one.
So I remember back in 2000, call it 14, 15, I was the founding CTO of a company called Trilogy, which ran boot camps. And this is back when these coding boot camps were just taking off and were going to be the next big thing. Um, and I had an opportunity to be on the ground floor. I taught a few classes. I recruited instructors, set up curriculum, helped set up partnerships with different universities. Um, and at the same time, I had my second daughter. So it became very tricky to have to deal with family life, kids. My other one was only 2 years old at the time, and this incredibly grueling schedule. So I had to step back and step away from the company. 3 years later, it sold for $700 million, of which I did not participate. So at the time, I was a little shocked. I'm like, if I could just have stuck around for 3 more years, things could have been different. But then in retrospect, you'll learn my family needed me at the time, so I had to do what I had to do. But the scar tissue is there. The resilience is needed, but if there's priorities other than the job, the money, the whatever.
Wow, that definitely is a tough example to look back on, but it's good to honestly always be family oriented because money comes and goes, but family is like that's the one thing you can never replace, and that's the one thing you'll always regret not prioritizing. So that's definitely a very good example. I don't think I've had anyone who was like, I miss my my shot like that.
Yeah, it was at the time when the acquisition was announced, part of me wanted to kick myself because it's only 3 years, right? In a career, what's 3 years? It's nothing. But if the family needs you at that exact moment in time, that's everything.
Especially during the formative years. I mean, yeah, that's key. Like 3 years is make or break for some people.
Yep.
So I've looked at your LinkedIn and background. Like I noticed you rose up to becoming like the subject matter expert, the CTO fairly quickly. What qualities do you say you have beyond obviously good education credentials? Like what really helped propel that very vertical growth. I mean, it's an amazing career growth, mashallah. Good for you. And what's your secret?
No secret, just network. Um, people. So I'm running a seminar actually on Saturday, a chat GPT session. Just how does chat GPT work? How do you take advantage of it? Taking time away from myself, my family, my everything to do it. And we've already got, I think, 120 people registered. It takes time. It takes effort. But that's the secret. By doing that, you start to not only become perceived as a subject matter expert, but become one. The fastest way to learn something is to teach it. The prep that I'm doing for this webinar, I'm learning a lot that I didn't know 2 days ago. And I've been doing Bitcoin seminars for the past 10 years. I've ran JavaScript coding sessions for people. And even one-on-one, every so often I'll find someone that needs help and I'll work with them one-on-one to help coach them. It's time consuming, it's grueling. There's very little direct payoff, but the payoff is sort of on the other side, right?
Oh, 100%. And you're right. I mean, teaching something forces you to learn and become good at it because you don't want to embarrass yourself. And that's something I do whenever we do little brown bag sessions in my past. Like I'd make sure I actually learned something so I could contribute to the group. And when it comes to mentoring, I mentor people at Stony Brook, Rutgers, New Brunswick area as well. Usually some of them are people who did IT properly, and then some of them are like pre-med kids who didn't make it and are trying to pivot. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I mean, the payoff is on the other side, right? You want to see them succeed, inshallah, and then get some of that blessings on the other in the afterlife, inshallah.
We hope. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah. And I'm curious, so how deep are you into this PhD program, by the way, for the machine learning and artificial intelligence?
About 3.5 years now.
Wow, okay. So
Uh,
you're almost
how
at the
much longer to go? It's anyone's guess, right? Because this is that tail end where it's just a matter of at some point it'll all come together, or I'll just keep grinding away.
I know PhD programs, at least when I was an undergrad, were usually like I think 5 to 7 years, but I think like you said, it actually depends on what is it, the dissertation defense? Am I saying that properly, or the thesis?
Yep, yep, exactly. So it depends. Eventually, something will click, and then it'll be just over, where you just keep going.
Yeah, but either way, it looks like your parents will be getting their doctor after all, right?
Yeah, maybe not the kind I wanted, but good enough.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience using soft skills appropriately and how you feel like that's an important skill to have in tech, because I've noticed there are some introverts in our field, and I feel like I've seen people who I look at them quite frankly getting passed over for promotions, and I can tell the only thing is that they're not playing the game well enough, they're not getting involved well enough. Um, what is your take on the importance of soft skills? And I mean, what can people do to, I guess, embrace them a little more and get out of the comfort zone?
I think that's the most important takeaway here. If there's any takeaway, it's that my soft skills have propelled me much farther than my hard skills ever have. If you follow my LinkedIn, it's just dumb jokes. It's just getting people to engage, converse, because that's really what'll propel you. You could be the best engineer, technical, whatever in the world, but unless you can connect with people in some meaningful way, you stand no chance. You're going to be overlooked every time. So it's more important, I would say, to have those soft skills developed with, of course, a solid understanding on the hard skills.
100%. What industry do you think you'd like to work in that you haven't worked in yet? For example, I love healthcare, higher education, government. That's sort of the industries I've been in and the industries I continue to work with. Are there any industries or companies that are on your wish list that you go like, you know what, I would love to work for these? And if so, why?
I don't think so. I think I'm industry agnostic. I'd rather just a really good um, team, good project, good challenge. And that's actually partially why I'm doing this recruiting thing, because I think that'll expose me very quickly to various industries and various, you know, possibilities without having to be pigeonholed into one of them.
Gotcha. And do you feel like you'll be working in tech well into your golden years, or do you feel like you have a timeline that like by this year, you know what? If I have made enough money, if I'm financially independent, I would love to just hang it up and then maybe get a second career or second start in life and do something else. Like honestly, I have a nana Abu back in Pakistan with like a mango farm. I sometimes say, you know what, life here is such a grind. I would love to just go back home and just farm mangoes with my nana Abu. Like that's how I feel when it's a bad day, when it's a stressful day. Then I calm down and go like, you know what, Pakistan's really rough, Muhammad. You're used to the US here, you were
Yeah.
born here, so maybe you wouldn't be a good. I don't even speak Urdu, so that would be very hard.
Uh, I don't know. I don't think that tech is broad, right? So that's partially why I'm trying to switch into this recruiting thing, just so I can. It's about increasing the surface area of optionality. You don't know what the future holds, no idea, but you just have to be open to new ideas and be open to looking for new ideas. So I have this idea of inverse motivation. First, I do something, and then I figure out why I did it, or if it was even a good idea.
He makes it make sense after the fact. Okay, I like that. I like that.
I think most people do, but I'm just a little bit more upfront about it. Like I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing most of the time. I'm not also not going to pretend to have a reason. That's the key.
100%. When you were at Rutgers, you did undergrad at, no, you did undergrad at NJIT, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you did MBA
Yeah.
at Rutgers. When you were at Rutgers all those moons ago, I don't know why I said it like that. What resources did you take advantage of? What clubs did you join? And what
None.
recommend none.
So the thing about the MBA was it's just get it done as fast as you can. There was no socializing. At least for me, there was no socializing aspect. There was none of that. It was just how quickly can I finish my coursework and get out. Even the connections, I didn't really make that many. It was just a free MBA for me, so that's what I did.
Gotcha. Interesting. Interesting. And for undergrad, were there any resources that you took advantage of? Like, for example, did you use the Career Center a lot? Did you rely on their resume workshop? Anything like that that you advise kids to use today if they still have those resources?
So undergrad, not so much. My master's, however, for me was personally game changing. The year was 2005. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, had just announced what they called the Grand Challenge to build a car that's capable of autonomous navigation. And mind you, 2005, not today. So I was convinced that I could do it. So I pitched the idea to some professors and the board and all that, and they said, go for it. So I formed a team, raised about $500,000 in sponsorship money from IBM, BAE Systems. And there I was running this team to design and develop a car that drives by itself. Me, of course, knowing nothing about any of that. And that really changed the game for me because it showed me that I could. It very viscerally showed me that I've got at that peak 60 students on the team, undergrad to masters, and somehow I'm responsible for all of them. We've got professors that are helpful, not helpful. There's egos to manage. There's presentations to make to companies to try to get sponsorship. And I have to do all of that while still doing coursework. So I think that, to students, the big takeaway is don't wait. No one will help you. No one will do anything unless you first step up. And once you step up, doors open. Help will come.
That's definitely important to take away, and that's an amazing initiative to do. I mean, at such a young age, and we think that self-driving autonomous cars is a recent thing, but I tell people like, let me tell you, there's a lot of fads or ideas today that we just waited for the technology to catch up. Like a lot of these things I hear about, I'm telling you, they were suggested 10, 15, 20 years ago, and then they would put it on the back burner and wait for technology to advance, and then we would try it again. Um, so yeah, I said, I mean, there were things we were trying from like the Pentium days for computers, but the technology just wasn't there. But they would announce at these keynotes and say, oh, someday, and that's what we're seeing is the someday has finally arrived, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
And even now, we're still off, right? Like things will still continue to happen.
yeah, absolutely. I see you got a lot of advanced degrees like very early on. You got your master's back to back with the bachelor's. You got the MBA like a year later. I
Mhm.
I find myself advising people not to get too many credentials because at least in today's climate, it makes sense. You don't want to be overqualified. Not to mention, um, I guess they usually demand a higher compensation or they want the ROI immediately. How did you find your experience? Getting having two master's degrees by the age of like 23. Like, did that even hurt you at all? Did that only help you? And was it a
My
product?
education and my career, I've always seen as two completely different things. I don't see education as an avenue to get a career. I think education is helping you flex that muscle and how to learn. If you take it with that spirit, the career is independent. Um, my undergrad was in computer engineering. I haven't touched a circuit in 20 years, right? What do I know about that now? VLSI, sure, I took a course, but was that part of my day-to-day life? No. So even the MBA, am I sitting there writing case studies for Harvard Business? No. But I think that the more education you can get, the earlier on and continually, in my opinion, go for it because you're only in that sort of stupid phase, that no responsibilities phase for a very, very short window. People don't go back to school in their 30s and their 40s. It's not, why would you? You already have your career, your family. It's lunacy to go back at some point. And everyone thinks that they will. Maybe they will. But uh, if you take your life into your own hands, if you don't wait, if you don't leave it on the career department or this professor or that and this, I think you can see exponential growth.
This is definitely sound advice. Well, inshallah, I see that we are, nearing the end of the clock. I'd love to know if you have any specific or generic pieces of advice for people who are in undergrad or people who recently graduated in COVID, which is a crazy time, and are looking for work. I mean, how can they, remain positive? How can they have a better, momentum when it comes to the resume? Any piece of advice that you have as an expert in the field?
So you have the lion, right? The lion is sitting there in the savannah and it sees a gazelle, a zebra, or something. It doesn't think about all of the zebras it never caught. When it's going to chase that zebra, it gives it 100% whenever it goes. As you get older, as you get wiser, you start to become a better judge of what is and isn't worth your effort. You start to think, I'm not going to do this venture. I'm not going to join this thing because it's probably not going to work out, in which case it definitely won't. So to those that are young in undergrad, do those things. Do those things that are likely not to work out. And if you can involve people or include people, your gains are magnified. If you sit there in your basement and you're working on this one solitary website, yeah, good for you. Get 5 people and teach them to make the website. And now your network is multiplied and your skills have progressed beyond because these 5 people are going to harass you with questions that you didn't even know you had yourself. So the only thing that I wish I would see more of is initiative. And I know every old person says that to every young person, but I mean that in a very sort of self-centered, selfish way. Whatever you're going to do, don't do it with an outcome in mind. Do it for the virtue of doing it. And include the first time I ran the JavaScript meetup, 2011, 6 people showed up. Pretty discouraging. I set all this up. I had all this pizza and soda out of my own pocket, and 6 people showed up. Great reason to walk away. But I kept going, kept going, kept going. Now we've got 4,500 people in the group. And for any particular event, we'll get 150 to 250 people to show up. It changes. You just have to continue to compound those things and learn to do the uncomfortable at all times.
That's extremely important. The consistency, right? Just keep going and
Yep.
honestly, coaching, mentoring, like just keep learning and keep educating others. And I wonder the barbecue you have every summer. Like when you started, what was the first one like? Because I know that barbecue has become very famous.
So the Shamoon BQ, it started by me trying to annoy my wife for some reason. I think it's just what you do as a married guy. It's just kind of your life goal. And the first one, 2017, maybe 16, it was just, we wanted to have a little summer barbecue. So I'm like, let's call it the Shamoon BQ. Funny, why not? I go social skills, right? Uh, nothing fancy. It's almost a joke at my own expense about me. I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people maybe, right? Second one, we're up to 60. The last one we had, we're at about 250. And this year we're going to be doing it again. And of course, I hope that you'll be able to make it in August, and open invite to all, really. I'm hoping to break 300. Totally free. And the key behind the Shamoon BQ's success, I think, is it's agenda free. No one's giving a speech, no one's fundraising, no one's there to tell you how bad you're living your life. It's just no agenda at all.
Yeah, no, inshallah, I'll be there this August. I'm getting married third week of July, but we're not doing any honeymoon.
Fantastic.
Thank you, because she's a teacher, so she, school
Mm.
year starts not September, but they pre-prep like mid-August.
Yep. Yeah, my wife's a teacher as well.
Oh, really?
Totally empathize. Yeah. So, but yeah, I hope to see you.
Hi, and so yeah, I look forward to it. And
But it goes back to the asymmetric payoff, right? You got to do the event, have 4 people show up, and then you do it again, have 8 people show up, and then again, and only 6 people show up. But you just keep doing it like a lunatic, right? So Steve Jobs said, "Stay hungry and stay foolish. Don't be so smart and don't know all the answers. Just keep being dumb for a bit."
absolutely. Well, thank you, brother Shamoon, for making
Thank
the
you so much.
and adding value to the community. And inshallah, when I come to the barbecue, just look for the guy with the burlap sack doing this. Okay, that
Absolutely.
all right, brother. Thank you for your time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam.